us for our presentation today on Sounds Scary, in particular the fireworks season. This presentation will be taken by two of our registered veterinary nurses. Claire Jones, myself, will be taking the first section on how to help your pet cope with the fireworks season, and the second half of the presentation will be taken by Judy Churm, who will be looking at long-term therapy, particularly discussing desensitization and counter-conditioning. So, the aim of this evening is to help give you the tools to support your pet through what can be quite a traumatic time for many of our pets out there. We know that fireworks don't just happen on bonfire night. It now happens all the way from September all the way through to the January New Year season. So it's quite a long period of time that your animal can be feeling stress, and this stress will just happen and progress as the years go on. So hopefully this presentation will help to give you some useful tools to help your pet through these. The different topics that we will be looking at will include the basic health care of your pet, looking at different signs of fears and stress that your pet may exhibit, particularly if these are quite subtle and maybe things that you might not notice. We will look at how these impact your pet, but also try and find ways to help minimise how these impact your pet as well. And then looking at desensitization and counter-conditioning tools to help you as the years go by. So we know that fireworks season is a particularly difficult season for pets and pet owners alike as well. Fireworks season isn't just when the fireworks happen. We know that, or rather pets are more aware of when the season's about to begin by the darker nights coming in, by the change of temperature, by the fact that the leaves are falling down to the ground, your pets are walking on them. They may then start to associate these signs with the beginning of the fireworks season. So your pet's already knowing that this is going to happen before it has happened. We know it doesn't, like I said before, it's not just bonfire night. We're looking at Halloween, we're looking at Diwali, we're looking at Christmas, New Year. Plenty of celebrations out there, lots of fireworks going off in the winter seasons, the autumn seasons. So it's quite a long period that we need to help your pet with. The first thing we want to assess with your pet is their health status. How well is your pet? Are they fully vaccinated? Are they fully flea and wormed? Are they not very well at the time? The main reason is that we know that stress puts a lot of physiological stress on your animal. So if your pet isn't vaccinated with a lot of the common diseases that are out there, then having that extra bit of stress on them can cause them to become a lot more immunocompromised and therefore susceptible to these other diseases, as well as, say, flea and worm, which can have a massive detrimental effect on their body. So by first of all ensuring that your pet is fully vaccinated and is up to date with everything and is fully healthy, that should help to reduce any further illness or immunocompromisation. We know that when animals come into contact with something stressful, they either go into fight or flight mode. So often this might be the flight mode where they bolt. Your animal hears the firework, they are going to run in the opposite direction, they're going to look for safety, they're going to look for cover. It's really important that your animal has a collar on them and an identity tag. It is law for dogs that you must have this anyway, but just ensure that you do. Even if your dog is walked using a slip lead, it is really vital that your animal has a collar on. They could bolt on a walk, they could bolt out your back door, the gate's accidentally blown open or left open. They can bolt if they're left in the garden and they manage to get through. Then having that identity tag just ensures that your pet is more likely to be reunited with you as soon as possible. If, for instance, this comes off, or maybe it's on a harness, the identity tag, and they've not had that on, your second most important thing you need to have is a microchip. Again, this is law. All puppies by the age, even before the age of 8 weeks, should have a microchip. Your breeder should have that implanted before they come to you. So they should have these microchip details. What you need to ensure is that those details are up to date. I cannot tell you the amount of times we've had animals brought into us from members of the public, lost animals out there on the streets, brought into us for checking for a chip, and all the details are incorrect. It's the wrong address, it's the wrong house number, there's not that many phone numbers on there, for instance. Having that up to date just ensures that we're going to be able to reunite with your pet should they bolt during the season. Otherwise, then we don't have facilities to keep your pets here, so we do have to ring dog warden, which we don't want to do. So please just double check your details are correct, and then you're more likely to be reunited as quickly as possible with your pet. So the next thing to talk about is to look at the signs of stress and fear in dogs. What are these signs? How do these signs progress? We've got subtle signs, I mentioned before, yawning, swallowing, for instance, subtle signs that you may not see in your animal. So we get plenty of clients bringing their puppies into us. We'll ask them how they've coped during the fireworks season, and they've been absolutely fine. They've had no worries. Clients really happy, which is great. However, they may have missed that subtle sign of lip smacking, of yawning, of not really feeling very confident about what's happening around them, but also as puppies, not really kind of fully knowing what's going on. These signs then might start to progress. So the following year, maybe they have more obvious lip smacking or yawning or going off their food. Just something that's slightly where they're going, I'm not really very happy, but I'm okay, but I'm not massively happy here. As the years go and these animals are getting older, much like children, getting older into adulthood, children are particularly not fearful of a lot of things, but as they grow older, they start to become more aware of what things are and what noises are and what is dangerous. And your animals are doing the same thing. So you might find, or we often find, that dogs are coming in age 3, 4 and beyond, and they are becoming progressively more anxious during this time, showing more severe signs of stress. So it's trying to minimize this whilst they're puppies, and trying to notice these subtle signs and then acting on it now. And then we can hopefully prevent fearful behaviour happening in the years to come. So, subtle signs of stress, I mentioned yawning, excessive swallowing, going off food, licking the lips. Signs that you might not associate with being fearful, but actually for a dog are signs that this is a fearful response. There are more signs, different signs that you might be aware of. So your more moderate signs, they might be trembling or shaking. They might be hiding, they might go off their food, not wanting to eat anything. They might be quite restless when they're at home, they're pacing around, not feeling quite happy in their environment. They might be causing a bit of destruction, trying to get out of a room, biting at the skirting boards, clawing at the door to escape. Your more severe signs could include something such as barking excessively, really salivating and excessive panting, so you're really aware now that your dog is very stressed. Tail wagging can be a really severe one. I know lots of people think that tail wagging always means your dog is happy. It doesn't. That very slow, cautious tail wag can really be an indicator that your dog is feeling really quite stressed. Inappropriate toileting. They might just suddenly defecate or urinate on the floor. Might be totally out of character, but that stress has just caused them to do that. Vomiting and even aggression in the nicest animal. Fear can really turn an animal aggressive if they're feeling particularly vulnerable. Now, just to mention lightly on cats, because we know cats are also fearful, but they might show their fear in a different way. So they might be monitoring their surroundings, much like you see the leader of a meerkat pack, for instance, looking around, looking for signs of danger, something that's going to attack them. You might notice that they become more withdrawn in their behaviour, they start to hide under your bed, which is a bit more unusual for them. They might become a bit more aggressive, not want to be touched. They might have inappropriate toileting, and a really big one we see in cats who are particularly stressed is cystitis. So if you're bringing your cat into us because of this cystitis, it can be because they're just feeling really stressed at the time. And two of the main ones that we do say you probably will notice will be the overgrooming and self-mutilation that they do show with severe stress. So how can we help our dogs cope during that fireworks season? Well, there's a multitude of things that you can do to help them. Initially, a den is a really good place to start. This should be available though several weeks before a stressful event's going to happen. We don't want to add something completely brand new the day that something stressful is about to happen. So having this a few weeks before, having it in an area where the dog is feeling nice and calm and relaxed, or maybe it's the area where they're going to go and hide to particularly. So having a den, you can use anything. You can use a crate. If you've been crate training your dog, great, then you've already got a den there. Just pop a blanket over the top. You could use a cardboard box. You could use a table that maybe they go under. Just pop a blanket over so they've got somewhere they can hide. Keeping that room dark as well. Keeping the windows and curtains shut. By keeping your curtains shut, it seems very obvious, but you're going to be blocking out visible lights of the fireworks showing through the windows. Having them shut, it also helps to just muffle the sound of the noise of the fireworks as well. You could put your own clothes in the bed for your dog to lie on. Having that smell of you might be really reassuring to them, something that they need, especially if you're not there for a little period of time in the day. Just make sure that they feel nice and relaxed. Playing lots of familiar music or rhythmic music, classical music, anything that's going to really help your pet feel at ease. But again, having this in place weeks before these fireworks are going to happen so that they are used to this and it makes them feel nice and relaxed. Providing plenty of food and water. We know that two things that canines find most valuable in their life is somewhere safe to hide, somewhere safe to live. So you're providing that with a den, but also food and water. So having those things all accessible to your dog during this season will just help them to feel nice and relaxed, or as relaxed as possible. At least they are there available to them. And you can also try and keep your dog occupied. Give them puzzle toys, give them chews, give them something to do to mentally stimulate them so that they are not focusing on what's happening outside, but they're doing something pleasurable inside. So, just to touch briefly on cats as well, helping your cats cope during the fireworks season. They may be less affected than dogs, but there will be still some out there who are plenty affected by fireworks. We want to keep these animals inside. Again, we mentioned about dogs bolting with the fight or flight. Cats do the exact same thing. So they're more likely to bolt with the stressful sound of a firework going off. So keeping them indoors, but trying to do this again, try and keep them in about a week or two before the stressful events, before the fireworks are meant to go off. It will just get them into a new routine, especially if they're outdoor cats, of staying inside, and hopefully it will reduce that stress rather than just bringing them in on the day and then that stressful event happening as well. We don't want to cause too much anxiety to them. So starting this new routine with them inside, looking at for instance, their litter trays, where we're going to position litter trays, how many litter trays we're going to have. If you've got a multi-cat household, you need to have at least one litter tray per cat, plus another one, and in a variety of places, upstairs, downstairs in your house. Cats seem to tolerate each other, they don't always really get on, so having them in different areas ensures they've all got access to something. You've got to look at where the litter trays are positioned. We don't want it in a place where there's a lot of traffic. So for instance, underneath some stairs where people are running up and down the stairs all the time, it's quite noisy, it'd be quite stressful for a cat. So having it somewhere nice and quiet, not next to your windows and doors either, where you're going to hear or see fireworks. So keeping them nice and nice calm areas. Also having a look at the litter substrate. So you might have a cat who primarily goes outside, and if they're going to the toilet outside all the time, then they're probably more likely to be going to the toilet, under the hedge, in some soil. So by using wooden pellets in the house, they're probably less likely to want to go to the toilet. If you bring some soil in, pop that in the litter tray, you might find that your cat is more likely to go to the toilet in that litter tray. So just being mindful of what they're used to doing and trying to replicate that as much inside as possible. Making sure there's plenty of food and water available, so very similar to dogs, making sure that that's always available, but also in different areas of the house, especially if there's multi-cats, it's a multi-cat household, you want to have that food and water upstairs, downstairs, and away from the litter trays. They are clean animals, they do not like to poo or wee next to where they are eating, so have them in different areas of the house will just reduce more of that anxiety for them. Interactive toys, keeping them occupied, again, keeping them mentally stimulated. Having your interactive toys, your motorized mouse toys that are moving around, or there's feather toys that flick around, giving them puzzle toys, so using the clear balls where you can put dreamies or treats in. The cats like to visualize what they're after, so if you put it in a clear one, that's what you want to go for. Putting treats and things in stacks of the inners of toilet rolls, just giving them something to do whilst the fireworks are going off, so they're not getting too bored, but also so they're not just focused on what's happening outside. And for with cats as well, making sure they've got plenty of space to be up high. Cats love to be up high. They are predator species. They like to look down on their prey or us. So having somewhere, for instance, the backs of sofas, having the cat shelves up on the wall where they can run around, or access to top of wardrobes, on top of the cupboards, somewhere where they feel more safe and secure, will just help to reduce that anxiety. So now I'm going to pass over to Judy Chim, who's going to talk about sound desensitization.